Great to be back after a couple of weeks off with the holidays. The Niners playing pretty good basketball right now as they're 9-5 overall and 2-0 in the Atlantic 10 Conference. We're here until 8 o'clock. We'll take your phone calls at 704-332-0173, 704-332-0173. Alongside Niners head coach Alan Major, I'm Matt Swierad, also joined by Lanny Ford here tonight as always with the Coach's Show. And, Coach, it's good to be back with the holidays now past us and back as we start the second semester for the students. Niners coming off a really nice little start to the conference schedule at 2-0. Big home win against Richmond, road win against St. Joe's over the weekend. That's a nice way to get it started.
Yeah, it's good to get off to a good start, especially at home. Richmond still has enough bodies off last year's team. That was really good that advanced in the tournament. So it was good to start off there. But then, St. Joe's was it was a great team win. I just felt like everybody contributed, and even though we didn't shoot the ball particularly great, I thought we won the game with our defense.
Coach, we had a few games before we had these wins the last couple of times out, and of course we start with the home game against Miami. We go on the road, Arkansas, and also Memphis on New Year's Eve. Let's talk a little bit about that and how that got us to where we are right now. You felt like in the Memphis game, we've talked about this a little bit, that the Niners kind of got their edge back, and it kind of has carried over into the two conference wins. Let's go back to the Miami game for a moment, and what's some of the things that kind of came out of that. We talk about lessons each game and what the team took from that to get us to where we are now.
Yeah, I think it's just not letting your opponents get you out of character. And once Miami got the lead, I felt like we got a little rushed and tried to get it back too quickly. Then in Arkansas, kind of the same thing happened. So those two games, in a sense, mirrored themselves. And I thought we attached our offensive output to our defensive effort a little bit. And then what was encouraging about Memphis is that, I thought we had a pretty consistent defensive effort throughout the game. I mean, it was literally, one possession game with 3 minutes to go. So that, I think, just trying to get guys to understand the little things. And, these games a lot of times come down to one or two possessions. And really, if you look at it, you try to always encourage the guys. I mean, we're sitting 9-5 right now, but we're about a one-possession, 3-minute game in Memphis. And then if we get one stop here against East Tennessee, all of a sudden you're 11-3. So, that's how college basketball goes. I mean, you're really not that far off at times. But that's been a good lesson for us. It's just kind of getting a better understanding how the little things mean a lot.
What's really interesting right now is we sit atop the conference at 2-0, along with two other teams in the league, the Dayton Flyers and LaSalle. If you are a college basketball fan that casually follows the sport, and you know that Xavier's been very good and St. Louis has been in the top 25 this year, and of course you got Temple in this league, and you were to say, okay, there's two games under everybody's belt now, and there's three teams at 2-0. I don't think anybody would have said LaSalle,
right,
Charlotte, and Dayton, because of course very young, all three teams, just kind of different situations coming into the season. That says a lot about this league, and somewhat it's scary because there's no gimme, and every night's going to be a battle.
Oh, yeah. No. And that's why you always try to keep winning and losing in perspective because, obviously to sit 2-0, we're elated with that, but we're not satisfied with that. And in this day and age, I think the challenge in coaching is you're trying to get kids to think ahead. Don't be satisfied with where you are. Think ahead in that, what's gotten us to this point, and now let's try to sustain that and repeat that. And so it just goes to show you're right. I mean, the A-10's really deep, and 2 weeks from now, we want to be still sitting where we are. As crazy as this game goes, you don't know. But the goal is right now all you can do is try to win one game a night, and you deal with Memphis or UMass rather this Wednesday, and you play it from there.
Our phone number is 704-332-0173. We'd love to hear from you. 704-332-0173. Coming up next for the 49ers is a trip to Amherst, Massachusetts tomorrow for a game on Wednesday night against a Minutemen team that is 12-4, and just like St. Joe's, the team the Niners just beat over the weekend, they're undefeated at home at the Mullins Center. The Minutemen right now 8-0, and the Niners right now 5-3 on the road. So it'll be a nice matchup. And then this weekend, the Niners are back home for an afternoon game on Saturday. It's a blackout at Halton Arena. The Billikens of St. Louis come into town. Rick Majerus' team's been in the top 25 on a couple of occasions already this season, and will break out those black uniforms for a second time, Coach. The first time we wore them, it was awfully special as you knocked off number 7 Tennessee in Uptown Charlotte last year. It'd be nice to get back home at Halton with the way the season has started for us right now, and break out those black uniforms again for a big matchup with St. Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. The students will be back. I thought really the crowds over the holidays were terrific. I definitely don't want to move on without acknowledging that. But now with the students back, the stands take on a little bit more life than even before. And St. Louis is really good. I mean, that'll be a tremendous challenge, obviously, that we're excited about. But first things first, as we get into Wednesday night, St. Joe's was also undefeated at home, and that was one thing we tried to throw out there to maybe motivate the guys a little bit. And so you have another challenge like that once again, and again, it just speaks to this conference. And I don't know where we're rated nationally, but from top to bottom, I mean, any given night, anything can happen.
There's more than a handful of teams right now in the Atlantic 10 in the top 100 in the RPI as of today. So the league is certainly putting up some pretty good wins so far this season. You look at the St. Joe's team, where they were 7-0 at home. They'd beaten, at the time, 17th-ranked Creighton. Mm-hmm. They knocked out Villanova at home this year. And now for UMass, the Mullins Center has always been an interesting place for me because it's kind of big. Yeah. Everything's burgundy. It's dark in there. It's never, to me, felt like, at least while we've been in the league, a true home court advantage for the Minutemen. Yeah. But Coach Kellogg has kind of a different team this year. 12-4. They're pretty exciting. They're 8-0 at home. Yep. It'll be interesting to see what the building's like going in. It was pretty hostile in Philadelphia. It was sold out 4,200 on Saturday. That didn't bother us. Right. So we'll see what it's like on Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's the unique thing. I mean, I think we're at the point with this Wednesday being 9 games out of 15 on the road that our guys look at games now. It's just that's another game. Sometimes if you look at it as a quote-unquote road game, you get caught up in the road part versus the game part. And you want to focus on the game part instead of the road part. So, it happens to be on the road, but at the end of the day, it's still 5-on-5. They can't play 8 guys. They can't jack the rims up to 12 feet.
Try 6.
Right. Someday, depending on some teams, it feels like it. But, I think just from where we've been, all the places we've been on the road, I think it's helped us just kind of get to the point where, all right, let's just settle in. The environment's going to be what it is, but let's just focus on playing basketball.
Well, we've got more coming up on the show. We've got a lot more to do. Got the email segment. We normally start that in this first segment of the show, brought to us by the Alumni Association. But we're going to take a break now, a little earlier than we normally do. We'll come back with a whole bunch of email questions for Coach Major. And also, if you want to give us a phone call, the number is 704-332-0173. And we've had a couple of little technical issues here in the building. So we'll get Lanny done with what he's doing over there soon, and he'll chime in as well shortly. This is the Alan Majors Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Majors Show here at Wild Wing Cafe, the Wild Wing Cafe broadcast booth with Lanny Ford. I'm Matt Swierad alongside Niners head coach Alan Major. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. We're here until 8 o'clock talking Charlotte 49ers basketball, and we'll get to the Alumni Association email segment very shortly. But first, a caller on the line. I believe Gerald's been patiently waiting during the break. Welcome to the Alan Major Show, Gerald.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Coach, great transition so far this year. Good turnaround for your team.
Thank you.
I have one question for you regarding the loss of the, I believe it's a Lithuanian shooting guard.
Yes.
Wants to know if Jamar Briscoe was still a little more time.
Yeah, I think he has. I think that'll be by committee. He'll continue to and he played really well Saturday. He's done a great job. I think, young kids like Terrence Williams have learned to chip in a little bit as well. So the beauty about that, Gerald, is every game kind of takes a life of its own, and we've tried not to maybe put it on one guy to take, the minutes that Luka had. It's kind of been done by different guys. So, and you kind of, when you try to play 9 guys like we do, some nights it'll be certain guys that you lean on more. So I think it's a good problem to have as a coach. The hard part is you just never know who that guy's going to be when the ball gets tipped up. But I appreciate that question. That's a terrific question. If you get any answers, let me know.
Absolutely. Keep up the good work, Coach.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Well, I want to thank Gerald for the phone call. Our phone number again, 704-332-0173. Before we get Lanny to give us our first email question, let's go to the Bojangles Bow Time segment of our show here, Coach. And we talked before our last show ended about how it was going to be fun for you going into the holiday break where there was no classes. The semester was over. Guys could just focus on playing basketball 24/7.
Yeah.
Things now changing. Classes started again. You were practicing in the morning the first semester. What's that like now with the second semester starting?
We'll be afternoons predominantly now. Tomorrow morning we'll practice because we've got to catch a flight, to go to Massachusetts. So there'll be some mornings when we go in the morning on days before road games because you try to get in there, mid to late afternoon. If you can, maybe get some shooting time on the other team's gym. Get off our feet, get a good meal, and then wake up and kind of go through your game day routine. So there'll still be some mornings where we'll go, but it'll predominantly be afternoons. We had some guys that had to have some morning classes, and we don't want to sacrifice academics for the sake of just trying to practice in the morning. But we enjoyed it in the fall. We'll try to do it again next fall if it works out. I thought it really helped the guys, do a great job academically in the fall too.
Classes went really well for everybody. And
yeah.
We've got the day game coming up this Saturday, so we started to have a few more afternoon games over the weekend, and we had, of course, the one against St. Joe's, and that went really well. It's nice. You got the routine of getting up in the morning. The guys are somewhat used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've tipped off at 11 a.m. at Lamar.
Yes. I remember that one.
There's been just about every kind of game time you can imagine. So I think Arkansas was 9 o'clock our time, if I'm not mistaken. So some of these time zones have been all over the place. But hey, you know what? If you want to have a chance to play in March, and if you're still at that point, you don't care what time you play, as long as you're able to put your uniform on. So some of that is mental, just being able to maybe prepare yourself for hopefully what you want to get at that point of the year.
Coach, we'll head on over to the Alumni Association email basket. And one of the questions, this comes from Todd Graydon. It says, congrats on the 2-0 start in conference play. The guys never seem to quit and always hustle. Offensively, we seem to be rushing. Can you talk a little about the offense and the keys to being more efficient? Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's, we're still continuing to play different lineups and developing a rhythm. And that's a point that we've tried to make to the guys is that making sure that we get what we want. And as you kind of grow a team into its identity, and I think guys are still starting to understand what our blueprint is. And it's one thing as coaches, if we get it, it's a whole nother thing if they get it. And that's the transfer that we're in the midst of now is you want them by the month of January to really grasp on both ends, what's successful. Now, in a game, if they get away from it, they can catch themselves as opposed to maybe having to burn a timeout, things of that nature. So a lot of it, it's a terrific observation by Todd. At times we'll get in a rush. Sometimes we'll actually get the ball in a pretty good position early, but against good teams in league, you want to make sure you test their defense a little bit more, and that's the next step for us in terms of our development.
Would you contribute any of that to the youth of the team?
I would, because especially, whether it's a Terrence or an Victor, just using those guys as examples, sometimes if we've been in a rut where we haven't scored in a possession or two, most young players, their instinct is when they get the ball, not in a selfish way, they just want to try to make something happen. And sometimes that something may not be what's prescribed at that moment. So that does happen with youth. I think there's a little bit of aggression there. And now it's just channeling that aggression to use it at the right time. And that's all part of growing up as a player.
Glenn Stryker sent this one. The St. Joe's win was almost the opposite as Richmond. In the win against Richmond, we started slow, finished with great efficiency. In the St. Joe's game, both teams had trouble starting and finishing, but each went on runs, and we built a 13-point first-half lead. Happily won both. Is it shot selection, game flow, or is it as simple as taking what the defense gives you?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is just taking what the defense gives you, and games have interesting ebbs and flows to them, and I think our next thing is continuing to handle, the prosperity part of the game. Is that, when you're up 13, let's look and see what do we got to do to get to 15 or 17. And part of that youth, like we mentioned, is handling success. You know, sometimes it's easy to fight back when you're desperate and you're down. But now I think the next thing for us is, you know, is kind of approaching that put your foot on their throat and put them away type of deal. And against good teams at home, that's sometimes tough to do. But the thing that was great about Saturday is I thought our defense stayed consistent throughout the game. And even when we had our little ebbs and flows, they still had a tough time scoring too.
The Time Warner Cable stat stuffer, we'll jump to that for a moment, Coach. You look at the two wins, Richmond and St. Joe's. And, you know, with Richmond, we certainly had a great night outscoring them in the paint, 20 for them, 50 for us. But a couple of numbers that stand out for me in both games, the job you did defensively in the second half. Against Richmond, they shoot 50% of the first half, mid-30s in the second. St. Joe's, 44-45 in the first, mid-30s in the second.
Yeah.
And in both cases, you end up winning the game, holding them off in the second half. A lot of that because of defense.
Yeah, no, and you want that to be you can control that. I think that's one of the most controllable things in the game is that not that you determine whether a team misses or not. You know, when they let it go, you still don't know. But if you force them to take the shot that you want, that increases their chances of missing it. And I think in both games, guys did a pretty good job of embracing the scouting report in terms of what we're trying to do. You know, obviously, I would love to get a 10, 15-point run out on everybody we play. Unfortunately, with the A-10, you know, a lot of games won't be that way. I mean, matter of fact, our deal last year was, you know, our margin was, I think we were -2 or 3 on the season, which was basically a one-possession game every game. Right now, we're right at 70 points a game, about 69. Our opponents are 67, 68. So we're still at a one-possession game in terms of our margin. But I think defense can be a constant, and no matter who you play, you always want to make sure you have that.
I thought against St. Joe's, the Hawks shoot 2 of 21, the three-point line, and you can look at it, if you just look at the box score and say, wow, they had a bad shooting day that day.
Yeah.
But if you watch the game and saw how we had a hand in the faces of every shooter.
Very important.
The switching that was going on, staying in on Carl Jones and staying on Landry, Galloway, what those guys were unable to do.
Yeah.
The one shot that Jones made falling into his own bench, I think JB had his hand in his forehead. I mean, somehow that shot went in.
Perrier in the corner.
Yeah, so we did, I thought, did a great job defensively just trying to shut down the three-point shot.
Yeah, that's the part. You know, I thought guys, they use a phrase called playing basketball on offense sometime, meaning that it's not always structure, it's just playing with a feel. And I thought guys did a good job of playing basketball on defense, meaning that they covered for each other. You know, it wasn't always perfect, but the times that, you know, somebody either drove or, you know, we plugged gaps pretty well. We kept them in front of us. And I just thought we did a good job of making them shoot more shots throughout the game that we wanted them to take versus them taking the shots that they wanted to take. And usually that's the difference in the game, is that if they take 75 shots, you want, or 50 shots rather, 75 possession game, they're going to take anywhere from 50, 60 shots. If they take 50 or 45 of those 50 or 60, or that the ones you want, you have a great chance. If 45 or 50 of those shots are the ones they want, then, you know, it could go either way, and more than likely it won't be your way because they got what they wanted.
Do you think the success that you're having now, that it's easier to get the kids to buy into your system as far as just like what you're talking about? You go in and you try to establish what you want to prevent on defense, not just playing good defense.
Right.
But we've got certain things that we want to do, take them out of their game, out of their routine.
Yeah.
Do you think they're starting to see how well that works and forces them to play in a different tempo or shoot a different shot from what they normally would want to?
I think so. I think it's getting into their blood that, you know, scouting reports are done for a reason, and that it's not just information that we give you, you know, for reading material. It's literally, you know, understanding their top 8, top 9 guys. You know, if I'm a Terrence Williams, who might be the 2 or 3 guys that I guard in this game? And what do those guys like to do, and how do I take them out of it? And that goes for every guy. You know, point guards, Perrier, Deuce, you know, Dario. You know, who are they going to guard? You know, same thing. Big guys, Braz, KJ, you know, JB, you know, guys like that. You know, who are the 2 or 3 guys they may guard? So it's thinking the game, and And I think they're starting to get it, especially, the last two games showed that if you just take the guys that are the key guys on the other team and then you try to make the other guys that aren't used to it play above themselves and maybe play out of character, the 6, 7, 8th men and the subs. If you can make those guys play above themselves and just try to take the known out and see if the unknown can get it done.
How long does it take to establish an identity? You want to be a tough defensive nose team and people to think of you that way. And, you think of Arkansas, we play the Razorbacks, and for years now, the 40 minutes of hell getting at you.
Right.
People think Arkansas, they think of that.
Right.
And with us in the past, I think they thought, we're going to score a lot of points on you. And it really has changed where this team now, it's defense first. And it seems like when I talk to the guys, talk to the players, that's the first thing they talk about. Is like, we want to be a really good defensive team. And it takes a while to establish that identity, but it seems like you're getting that through to the players now. And how many games, if they keep doing what they're doing, then all of a sudden you said, yeah, we're doing it right?
That's a great question. I'm just glad they're telling you the same thing. maybe because they know you and I talk all the time, and you'll rat them out. I don't know, but I don't know if there's a number. I think last year was just so much about just establishing culture-wise and how we want to carry ourselves. Just off the court as well as on. And, obviously a bunch of games didn't go our way, but just, fighting to the bitter end. And now this year it's kind of, been more about developing chemistry and developing consistency. And I think part of that consistency is developing an identity, because identity means you know what you're going to get night in and night out. And you can kind of put a label on that like, yeah, that's what those guys do. So I hope we're there. If the guys are, embrace that, which I think they understand that's got to be our calling card, then I think it's starting to take shape to where, if you play those guys, you may score, but, they're going to really try to make it tough on you.
Our phone number is 704-332-0173. We're here until 8 o'clock. Let's go back to the email segment, Lanny, brought to us by the Alumni Association.
This one comes from Norm the Niner coach.
Norm, all right.
Did games against Miami, Memphis, and Arkansas get you ready for the rigors of A-10 play, or were you seasoned with the number of games that you played away from Halton? I'm ready for some home games. And P.S., who's your favorite mascot?
Oh, it goes without question, Norm. I mean, you're the guy, especially, with the kind of been bulked
all
up.
Beefed up.
He's been working out.
He's been in the weight
room.
Got a new
look.
He can go after Brutus now at Ohio State.
No question, head first. Yeah, head first. But I would agree. I think, we mentioned a moment ago, this will be 9 games out of 15 Wednesday night that we've been away from home. So it's such a process to road games. A lot of people think you get there and then you play, but it's you get ready for road games, to me, when you start packing your bag. That's a mental thing. You packing your bag, you're thinking about it. Then you got obviously the bus trip to the airport. Then you got the plane ride. Then you got the bus ride from the plane to the hotel. Then you got setting up shop in the hotel and establishing, the rhythm of what we want to do. When's film? When do we walk through? When is game day shoot around? What time are the meals? What time are we leaving for the game? There's just all these things that play into it, and there's a routine that you want to develop that the guys get in their head that, hey, this is kind of our routine, and now you develop a comfort zone within that routine. And we've been on the road so much that I think, guys kind of understand what our routine is. And so I would agree that being away is, and like we mentioned earlier, I think they're more focused on the game than being on the road.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, not at all. I think that's what you want, because if you get caught up in the road part versus the game part, then you won't have the focus that you need.
Here's one from Charles Pipkin, and it says, well, KJ Sherrill and Chris Bryce will be sharing floor time more often as the season progresses, especially later in games, if neither in foul trouble. I think it was Memphis where they both played together for the first time, and it didn't look as if they had practiced on offense together much. But against St. Joe's, the high-low combination produced one easy bucket for KJ as if it were something that worked on the whole time.
Yeah, they will at times. And I think the thing we have to just be mindful of is if they're in the game together for a long stretch, then they may get a little winded at the same time. So you try to, ride with both of them together for a little bit. and then you get one guy out so he can get a break, and especially if you can get one guy out before the media, he can get an extra break, and now the other guy gets a break, and then maybe right after that media you get the other guy in. So it's kind of a catch and go with it, but against teams that don't really play like a skilled four-man, they play two traditional bigs. It helps us because we can match up with those two guys in there a little bit more against teams with size. At one point, I think St. Joe's went with three bigs on the court. They literally had Roberts, Aiken, and the foreign kid, number 21, on the court at the same time. So in that sense, that's a matchup that we can work with KJ and Braz out there together.
Well, Coach, before we take our last break, before we have our player segment, I think Perrier Henry's going to be our guest tonight, too.
Ooh. No, just kidding.
Coming up, a great game against St. Joe's over the weekend. One quick question of the rotation. You seem like you've settled on a group of guys where you know their roles. The players starting to know their roles a little bit, too. And even the young guys who you'd seen them play, you recruited them, of course, but it's a whole different animal when you're playing Division I college basketball. Terrence Williams now, end of the conference season, is playing a little bit more, and he had 7 rebounds against St. Joe's, and now you're getting a lot of production, pretty much everybody coming into the game.
Yeah, I thought that there was 2 different stretches where T. Will and Vic and P were out on the court together, three young guys in their 14th college basketball game, so against a quality team that was unbeaten at home. So but again, I think some of the environments we've been in, those guys have been thrown out on the court already, so I don't think there's any type of a surprise of being out there. And I thought in the first half, T. Will and Vic, were in there, and I think they were in with Deuce at the time, and they just kind of they settled us, in the game. And actually, we won a 4-minute segment, 9-2, with those guys in, and then T. Will and Vic and P were out there in the second half, and we had just a solid stretch. They defended. Vic had a steal and saved the ball when he was falling out of bounds. Again, Terrence rebounded well. So, I think the best way those guys grow is game time, and the more they play, it'll accelerate their growth. So that's clearly the way to go to help them get better.
Well, we'll step aside for a moment. When we come back, we're going to talk with Perrier Henry, Niners freshman point guard from South Charleston, West Virginia. Next game coming up on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. The Niners back on the road in Amherst, Massachusetts to take on the University of Massachusetts. And then back home over the weekend, a day game, afternoon game on Saturday against the St. Louis Billikens. For tickets, call 704-687-4949. You can also buy them online at charlotte49ers.com. You're listening to the Alan Major Show from the Wild Wing Cafe University Broadcast Center. Back with more in a moment. Again, this is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group.
And welcome back to the Wild Wing Cafe broadcast booth for the Alan Major Show. You can catch a video replay of the show on UNC Charlotte Cable TV Channel 22 on Time Warner Cable Wednesday and Friday. Tune in to Channel 22 for showtimes.
Lanny, our special player guest today is Perrier Henry, Niners freshman point guard from Charleston, West Virginia. And it's brought to us by Ortho Carolina. Perrier, great to see you again. You sat up there and joined me on the postgame show the other night after beating St. Joe's, a great road win. And you guys now 2-0. The Atlantic 10 is this your freshman season is playing out. What's it been like for you so far?
It's been a blessing. For one, I just want to thank God for giving me this opportunity. And I just want to thank Coach Major, the whole coaching staff, the organization of Charlotte, and then just our fans and the support that I get. But it's been lovely. I can't complain. I'm learning a lot, and it's a great experience. And hopefully, it keeps turning out like it's been going.
You're a great athlete. Played football in high school as well. Of course, a very good basketball player. It's different when you get to college. The game's a little bit faster. What's it been like making the transition? Is it what you expected it would be, or is it more difficult, or maybe even for yourself a little easier?
It's a lot faster but slower in the same pace. Just learning the game of basketball itself. I really thought I knew the game of basketball, but I got a lot to learn, and I got a great coaching staff that's helping me understand the basketball IQ. So that's really the big difference, is just knowing the game and the knowledge.
One of the things that I've noticed in watching you play that you don't have to have a whole lot of coaching about is your instinct on defense. You really work hard at trying to make steals and trying to make turnovers. That's something that just comes instinctively, and your speed and quickness seem to help with that.
Well, I'm a big believer in defense wins games. But in the same token, I mean, God blessed me with them instincts and just put me in them positions. But also, I got to thank my teammates for communicating with me to help me get in them position. And as I'm guarding these players, I'm not guarding them by myself. I got a lot of help side, and it causes them to bobble the basketball. And then I actually got to work as hard as my teammates did just to finish the play.
Do you think it helps as far as allowing you to go a little bit harder, knowing the teammates have kind of got your back if you miss, or kind of taking some of those chances to make the steals?
Yes, sir. As we came over in the summer and living with most of the players and just hanging out with them outside of the basketball court, it showed that the family and the love that we have for each other. And that's one thing that I really like coming here on my official visit is how everybody was a big family, and I believe that everybody would run through a wall for each other. So I definitely want to give back the same effort, or even more energy, and just lay my heart out there for them because I know they do the same for me.
Perrier, when the season started, you certainly were running the offense as the point guard and doing a nice job on defense and still getting the steals. You've got at least one steal every game so far this season, but I've noticed in recent games, and in particular St. Joe's, looking for your offense a little bit more, and you're a talented guy, very athletic, especially going to the basket, and you also had that hoop off the steal from the inbound play, so you add another dimension when you can score a little bit. Is that something you're looking towards a little bit more now, where if there is an opening, there is an opportunity, maybe try to score a little bit more, because it actually helps open up things for the other guys because they know you're going to be an option to maybe score?
Yes, sir. The biggest thing that I learned as being a point guard is, help my teammates get better and help them get easier shots. And coming to college, I learned is when I do that, then they're doing the same for me when I don't have the ball in my hands. So therefore, it's like we're sharing with each other, and for my teammates to have faith in me, then I got to work to get the open shot and to knock it down. But I give a big thanks to Coach Major because the offense that he wants us to run gives me a big help to have a great open shot, a great opportunity to be an offensive player. So
take us to the play late in the shot clock in that last game where the ball was in your hands out top, and I thought it was a fantastic move to the hoop, and you weren't worried the shot clock was down to 1 second when you got rid of it. Take us through that one.
Well, first I didn't even know that the shot clock was that low, so I got to thank my bench players that wasn't on the court because they was yelling at me. And then I got to give another thanks to Chris Braswell for setting a good screen. But as that play was going on, we already had it designed up. And coming out of the huddle, DeMario Mayfield came up to me and he said, ain't no pressure, ain't no need to be nervous. Just play your game and just hoop. And I didn't know why he said that at the time until I got the ball and everybody told me it was like 4 seconds left. And then that's when it clicked.
We're lucky. I get to travel with you guys and see you guys interact with each other, and you do like each other. You have a lot of fun. And you're one of those guys that tries to keep the atmosphere light a little bit. And our strength and conditioning coach, Ryan Atchison, gets on you. And I know he has a bunch of Perrier-isms he's kind of written down, things you said he thinks are funny and interesting. He keeps a little notebook. And you said something at the airport before we left to come home yesterday. You came to the airport, you're about to sit down. You say, this game's great, but basketball will be even better if there's no fouls. Because you got a couple of little ones you got trying to reach in, getting a steal. I picked for a couple, but you have fun playing this game, don't you?
Yes, sir. I believe that if you're having fun playing and you work hard, then the outcome of the game is you're going to win. So, therefore, if you're not having fun, then obviously you're losing because nobody wants to lose. So, therefore, I just feel as if we have fun. And I pick with Coach Major all the time because he over there biting his nails half of the time. And, like I told him, he's the driver. He's driving the bus. We feed off of his energy. And when he's nervous, then we're kind of nervous. But in the same token, I know he loves the game, and he is not going as he wants it to, because we have times that we start out slow, and that's not what Coach Major wants, or our staff. That's not how we practice. So therefore, that's when I feel as if I need to come in and just give my energy. And, if it takes me to get a foul to hype everybody up, then I guess I'd take one for the team.
You're like Lanny, come a little bit with a football background, and Coach Adge was telling me how impressed he was in the off season with the work he put in the weight room, and he kept saying, "Give me more, and that's a great work ethic and example, even as a freshman, to set for your teammates.
Yes, sir. I really wasn't big on weightlifting back at home where I'm from. I mean, my football coach, he always told me I needed to, but I always believed that. I mean, if I have a big heart and the pride that I have, then nobody was going to be able to bully me. So therefore, I just did the little things. Like, if a big man's posting me up, then the lowest man's going to win. So I try to push him off the block. And, as I came to college, it's another learning experience that weightlifting is actually a big key in the game of basketball.
I'll get one more question in. When you came here to Charlotte, one of the reasons was having a football program start in 2013. You love the sport. When you played in high school, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have all the information in front of me, but you broke Randy Moss's record for a touchdown pass reception. I know you love the game. Is there ever any thoughts in the future of playing two sports? I'm not sure if Coach Major would like that.
You weren't supposed to ask that with Coach Major
I'm not sure if
here.
Coach Major would like that, but, someone's going to ask you. I might as well. He can only be mad at me for so long,
I've thought about it. I mean, it was my dream growing up, because, I just wanted to be different at all times. And then in the same token, I wanted to do whatever it takes to put food on the table, put a roof over my head, and, to get my family out of the struggle. So if it took me to play two sports and to get a degree, then I was going to do it. But right now, I don't think football is in my picture no more. I mean, I played football in high school and growing up as a kid just to have fun and just to stay out of trouble and, just to stay off the streets. So therefore, right now, it's a business. As I got older, coming into college, and just looking back, it was just for fun.
Well, Perrier, you're a fantastic basketball player, and it's been a great freshman season for you so far. I'm sure a very bright future as well. And it's been great watching you. Looking forward to the rest of the season. Congratulations on the win on Saturday, and good luck on Wednesday.
I appreciate it.
Perrier Henry's been our guest, Niners freshman point guard from Charleston, West Virginia. We'll continue with more from the Alan Majors Show after these messages. This is the Alan Majors Show from the Wild Wing Cafe University Broadcast Center from Signature Sports Group. Hey, Niner fans, take advantage of the 10% discount before and after home games right here at Wild Wing Cafe University. Fly under the wing before and after the Niners home game this Saturday against St. Louis, and show your ticket or ticket stub after the game for 10% off your entire order here at Wild Wing Cafe University. Back on the Alan Major Show with Lanny Ford, I'm Matt Swierad with Niners head coach Alan Major. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. The Niners right now 9-5 and 2-0 in the Atlantic 10, coming off wins against Richmond and St. Joe's. They take on UMass on Wednesday. The Minutemen 12-4. They're 8-0 at home, and they're 1-1 right now in conference play. They did get beat yesterday against a very good LaSalle team, 82-75. They beat Fordham by 4 at home in their opener. And Fordham's one of those teams, Coach, that they're improved. And now we know LaSalle. They haven't gone on the road yet, but we know LaSalle is pretty good at Tom Gola Arena, and we got to go there.
Oh, yeah. No, they're playing 4 guards. They got a guard, kid that transferred from South Carolina named Galloway. That's added to their scoring. They're kind of a three-point shooting team. I know they hit 12 threes yesterday against UMass. So they're basically playing 4 guards and a forward right now, almost like a spread, pick and roll, drive and kick, Phoenix Suns, type of deal that they got going. So not really a back-to-the-basket presence, but a guard-oriented team. And Fordham, I mean, top 25 win over Harvard recently. I think it was last week. So,
yeah.
I mean, Tom has done a good job of just solidifying their deal, and that'll be another place we have to go to. So, it won't be an easy deal.
No, not at all. And you look at UMass and what they've done so far. How different is this team in terms of what they're doing with their game plan and how they want to play? They've kind of ditched that dribble drive offense, haven't they? But what's the difference between what they were doing last year and what they're doing now? I understand the dribble drive, the whole idea of it,
right?
But did it work? Did they really run it that way, or are they now just kind of changing everything altogether?
Yeah, they still have it. They still got elements of it in their system. They got a little bit more pick and roll going on. They'll try to really get you in transition. So obviously, if you miss a shot and they get the rebound, they really drive it early and try to get something quickly. Even if you score, they'll try to get it out quickly and get a long, what we call a deep outlet, meaning that the point guard will just really kind of float out and try to get the ball, maybe right below the half-court area or between the hash and half-court. And now by his first or second dribble, he's already at half-court. So it's almost like a surprise, try to strike quickly. Make or miss, they really try to get you early on. And then it's a little bit more spread court and driving the ball, and they just want to get you out of sorts and scrambling and then try to get you on the offensive board. They do a great job offensive rebound and get about 14, 15 a game. So they're a little different than last year, but they still got some dribble drive elements to them.
When you talk about not being a traditional type or a too big set or the 4-guard set, is there one type of scenario you think that we match up better than others?
Yeah, we're a little bit more 3 guards and a forward, kind of with JB, playing what we call a skilled forward or a stretch 4-man, meaning a guy that plays the 4, but he's not with his back to the basket.
He's not really a power forward.
More of a face-up guy that can shoot it. Yeah, they call him a stretch 4 or a face-up 4, that type of thing. So, we probably match with teams that are a little bit more perimeter-oriented. But what was good about that, you go play against a team like Davidson that played 2 bigs, with Brooks and Cohen. And neither one of those guys, shot a ton of threes. But I thought we did a pretty good job of just playing team post defense. And you can't really rely on one guy to keep it out of the post. You got to do it by committee. So, every game's going to be different. And you just try to adjust to what the team's running and defend them properly.
Now we got one last break to get in before we come up and wrap the show up in a moment. So we'll come back with some final thoughts, getting ready for the games at UMass and at home against St. Louis this week. The Niners putting their 2-0 conference record on the line on Wednesday against the Minutemen. This is the Alan Major Show from Signature Sports Group. Welcome back to the Alan Major Show. Final segment. We'll wrap it up at the top of the hour. And get ready to get back on the road, traveling tomorrow and going up to Amherst, Massachusetts to take on the Minutemen of UMass on Wednesday. Pregame at 6:30. We'll tip it off in the Mullins Center at 7 o'clock right here on ESPN 730 Charlotte. Well, Andy, we've got one more question to get in from our old friend Scotty Olson, Niner alum, and he's going to ask a little football question.
Scotty wants to know, said, and you alluded to this earlier, Matt, Perrier Henry was a star football player in high school, and an incoming freshman, Sean Lester, is as well. I was wondering if either of these guys had expressed interest in playing football for the Niners in addition to basketball, and also what are your thoughts on future players possibly playing both hoops and football? I know some coaches are hesitant to allow it because of risk of injury. Thanks and congrats on the 2-0 start in A-10 play.
Yeah, I think that may be Brad Lambert disguising himself as Scotty Olson with that question right there. He's probably, I don't know if he's in the back or –
he left with his wings earlier.
He left with his wings. He was by here.
He's probably hiding under the bar, waiting to see what the answer is going to be. But, no, I think you got to do – it's hard to do both, honestly. I was at Ohio State, and we went through this with Terrell Pryor. We were recruiting Terrell for basketball, and obviously he was being recruited for football a little bit. And could have gone anywhere he wanted for either sport. But it came down to – the sport that he's going to excel at that's best for his future. And, if a guy has a chance to excel and keep playing after college in one sport, it's best that he specifies in that sport. To me, if a guy is maybe a non-starter or in a sport, maybe you come off the bench and you're a non-rotational guy, let's say in basketball, then that's different because – you're more than likely football is probably your deal. Now basketball, you're playing it to stay in shape and things like that. So kind of like a Donovan McNabb, he played basketball at Syracuse, had a little impact on their team, but
Sure.
they were good without.
Yeah.
So I think it's all in what's best for a kid's future. And it's hard with basketball overlapping to do both because, we're the one sport in Division I that overlaps in
there's
the
not
fall
too
and
many.
the spring.
You're right. With basketball, I'd say football. There's some basketball, baseball. Bo Jackson played football and baseball.
Right.
He played them both really well, but
Right.
it doesn't happen very often. We have very little time left. I want to ask you about UMass and just your thoughts going into the game. We got about a minute. What you feel like we need to do on Wednesday night?
I think match their toughness to start with. Go in with a great edge and energy about us. You never know what the building's going to be like. I don't know what their deal is with students and all that. But an up-tempo, energetic team. So we want to go in and bring in an edge to the game, almost like, setting the tone and try to set the rules for the game. Got to take care of the basketball. They will full-court press some. So just being strong, and it just gets back to getting what we want on offense because their whole thing is to try to get you out of character a little bit. So if we go in and obviously keep the same defensive mentality we've had where we, just don't let the guys that are used to perform at the level that they're used to.
Coach, thank you.
Thanks, fellas. Good to see you again.
Have a good trip, and we want to come back with another win and start with another one in Halton. We appreciate the time tonight. Coming up next on ESPN 730, it's Alabama LSU, the national championship game right here on ESPN 730. The Allen Major Show is brought to you in part by your Carolina Ford dealer, delivering versatility, unsurpassed power, and best-in-class MPGs. Compromise nothing in the 7-passenger 2012 Ford Explorer, and visit your Carolina Ford dealer. Fans of Charlotte 49ers basketball. For Matt Swierad, Coach Allen Major, this is Lanny Ford. Have a good evening. Good night. We'll see you next week right here from Wild Wing Cafe University.